Peace, family. This is Lions there with another news and commentary. A black man went undercover as a white supremacist. Online as a white supremacist ahead of 1 year anniversary of violence in Charlottesville, Virginia. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this news clip, and I'm gonna give you the rest of my commentary.
I want to introduce you to Theo Wilson. He went undercover as a white supremacist to better understand their hatred. Theo, thank you so much for being here. It's always good to have you. We talked with you last year at this time. And because of that, I want to ask you, first of all, what surprised you most about the people that you were in communication with?
What surprised me most is how hatred backfires on the hater immediately. Of all the guys that were in the alt-right that I was studying and all the guys who were trolling me when I was making Black Lives Matter content, the thing that struck me was that none of them are happy, and that the emotional entanglement in white identity causes great suffering for these people in and of itself. And it comes out as rage, it comes out as anger, and it comes out as hatred. But what's most alarming was that none of these guys were fulfilled in living their best lives. And that was kind of ironic to me when I was doing my research and going undercover.
Did anybody want to? I mean, what kind of conversations are they having?
The kind of conversations that they're having are basically based on blame, and they are centered around the fact that America, sadly, is an ahistorical society. When I go around the country speaking at universities, what I find is that there's a gigantic vacuum when it comes to the history of people of color. They don't know about, even here in Colorado, the Sand Creek Massacre, the burning of Black Wall Street. None of that stuff is taught. And therefore, you lose context in the present moment. History contextualizes the now. And when you lose that, you have this vulnerability, especially in the age of the internet, of people falling for new school Mein Kampf ideas, getting rebranded as something brand new, and they don't realize how they've been baited into being on the wrong side of history yet again.
So 1 year ago, we talked about this.
Yes.
We're now a year later. Do you get a sense that anything has changed?
What I do get a sense of, and I think that this was very interesting with the Charlottesville rally, in a way, the far right imploded on itself. I remember the atmosphere in the country being as something of that they might have a valid political voice. And when Charlottesville happened, it was like, oh, no, these are the same old crazy people that white supremacy has always produced. And so I think it actually put a dent in their momentum, and it put a dent in their credibility. When Heather Heyer was killed, it showed that this violent ideology is still the same thing as it always was. It's been taking life since 1492, and it showed up as that again. And we have a right to be on edge about these rallies.
There's a student activist at Charlottesville High School who said this. I believe it was in the Washington Post. She said, "There hasn't been the work to go back and reckon with white supremacy. Before we can move on and heal as a community, we have to reckon with that." How do you think, Theo, you reckon with white supremacy? What conversations need to be had?
I think the conversation especially needs to be had in white America is the difference between guilt and accountability. There is something in our past, a huge past, that is something to be ashamed of. Like the genocide of the Native Americans is something to be ashamed of. The enslavement of black folks, what happened to the Chinese on the railroads, is something to be ashamed of. But the feeling just triggers guilt, and then people hide. What needs to happen is that, okay, I may not have been the one who perpetuated these crimes individually, but I kind of did inherit the wealth of that. The accountability comes with how do we reckon with the past so that we don't make these mistakes. Let's make some brand new mistakes in the future, but the cyclical nature of this is what's most alarming to me. You have to be able to distinguish emotionally between shame and guilt and accountability for what you've inherited. I think that's a very important conversation.
Okay, and that's what is interesting here as well, because another article in this Washington Post article, another moment in it takes on institutional racism, saying, listen, it exists.
Yes.
They say the city and the university have not come to terms with their history of being built, enriched, and sustained by enslaved people and remaining for much of the 20th century segregated institutions that celebrate the vestiges of the Confederacy rather than casting them aside. What do you think holds people back from that acknowledgement that needs to be made? And can you move forward without the acknowledgement?
You can't move forward without the acknowledgement. We have to keep in mind, this has been an openly apartheid society. Like the enslavement and oppression of black folks was legal from 1619 to 1971, when the last Jim Crow law fell, Swan versus Charlotte-Mecklenburg Board of Education. Okay, so basically, if you're Generation X, you were born in the time when this kind of oppression was legal. So the last 40 or 50 years versus the last 400 years is literally not enough time to reverse the damage that was done when this society was openly apartheid.
But there are people who will say, I didn't live in that time. And I don't acknowledge that now. So why can't we get over it? There are some people who will say that. To that, you say what?
You know what? You could break somebody's leg and you could say, I'm very, very sorry for it. But the time it takes to heal that leg is just the time it takes to heal. If you don't acknowledge that leg is broken, if you don't put the cast on it, if you don't give it the proper nutrients, then it will never heal. This society has a habit of denial. It has a habit of defensiveness. It has a habit of wanting to live in the pie-in-the-sky fantasy of what this country often portrays itself to be versus the brutal reality of what this has been for a long time. And you don't get to escape from that just because you don't want to see the damage that has been done to people of color. Eventually, you have to face it because we are the living echoes. Yes.
Theo, I thank you so much. I'm sorry we've run out of time, but I just want to say I appreciate you being here and sharing. Thank you for being here.
Okay, folks, you saw the video here. Theo Wilson, the one in the right here, was going undercover as one of the white supremacists online. And he's telling the story to a CNN interview, as you saw in the video. And he explained why he did what he did. Now, he understands that, after what happened in Charlottesville, the white supremacy, or basically the white supremacists themselves, explode themselves, because obviously they show what kind of person or what kind of violent this organization really was. And obviously it proves to time and time again that we need to look into ourselves of our own reality. This is basically shows this is the reality of what happens when you dealing with white supremacy. And now, like about no later than a couple of weeks ago, like at least a week ago, we have a Unite the Right rally here in DC. Obviously, it didn't turn out the way the white supremacists wanted to turn out, because I heard there's like 24 people there, and the majority are counter protesters. See, this is why I'm letting everybody else know what it is. And this brother, Willie, he was really obviously a hero, because we really nobody knew that the guy was black, as you know. Nobody knew that. But he basically went undercover as one of them, the white supremacists, to find out what's really going through their minds, what's going through their hearts, what their plans are. And it's kind of interesting to listen to him, because basically it proves that, this white supremacy or white supremacists are preaching hate. We already know what their lifestyle is, and that he tells the history of 1692 basically what's going on with the white supremacist world. And he's basically couldn't believe that he is what he is. Now, we can talk about, he shouldn't even did that, or why he's doing it, because he's risking his life if he goes undercover. And this is basically proven that anybody can go undercover. And this is what's important for a lot of people right now, that we need to look at these white supremacist websites, because those are some interesting things that we need to look at, and what we need to find out what's in their minds, and why they feel the way they feel when it comes to hate or racism, or why they were racist, or why are they openly racist. So this brother right here, again, risked his life, because obviously nobody knew what color he was. He thought he was white. Of course, he wasn't interested in being a white supremacist. But he shows that what these organizations really are. And see, we definitely need to go in there. We definitely need to go to these forums where white supremacy is, and find out what they know, why they hate, what their background is. And it's really interesting on how you found the truth, if you know where to look. So I applaud this brother right here, because a lot of people will be scared to go undercover, pretending to be one of them, to find out what he knows and what they know, or what their plans are. So, you know, like I said, he risked his life, and I'm glad he did what he did. And, you know, it took courage doing what he's doing. I'm just saying. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this video. Share this video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my reaction channel. And subscribe to my Black Junction channel for all the news and commentary. With that being said, it's Lions Den signing off. Deuces.